Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the podcast. This week, I was given the wonderful opportunity to be able to catch up with Yaron, and Yaron does a lot of interesting things, mostly or only to help men understand their purpose a little bit more. But I'll let him talk a little bit more about that in a moment. So thank you so much for coming back and listening to the podcast once again. I hope you take some value from this episode, and I'll see you very, very soon.
So my name is Yaron Engler. I run a program which is called And Then What, which is a transformational program for men who are in leadership roles. It's no secret that a lot of men like me, we act as if we have all our shit together and everything is okay on the surface, but under the surface there is a lot of things that bubble up. And I found myself as someone that don't really know where to go with it. So I created the environment where we can go and we can open up and we can share, not as a therapeutic space, but more as a place of growth and place of development and learning and a lot of strength actually this builds up. So that's what I do. My background, I'm a drummer. I've been touring around the world as a drummer. It was good fun. Kind of always followed my heart. What else is important? I am a father and I'm a husband. I'll leave it there.
Fantastic. Thank you ever so much for the time. Really appreciate it. And welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you. So, I mean, for those who don't know, because I know a little bit of background, because we met through TBN and etc. So, I mean, for those who don't know, I mean, what do you say is like the main struggle for? Because as I was saying before we started the podcast, a lot of people who do listen to the podcast religiously are starting out entrepreneurs. They're people who are really challenged by the idea of going into business. So, I mean, what would you say to those people who are like, yeah, I love the idea of going into business, and then how does your what you do because I see a synergy in the respect to that. So say, for example, someone wanted to, be a photographer, or they wanted to, do their own thing. Would am I right in that assumption that what you do would kind of help them in that process if that's what they wanted to do?
It's a great question. If you're talking about what my program can help with, yes, it can help with that if that's what you're looking for. If we talk, it's two different questions. What you ask actually, is it about the tip for an entrepreneur, or is it what the program is about? Because there are two kind of different things. Which one do you choose?
So, well, I think let's go into entrepreneur first, and then we'll explore a little bit more about what the program is and how it works and that kind of thing as well. So, I mean, is it for an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think it's for any man who feels stuck, and it feels stuck, and wherever the area of stuckness is for some of us, it's like there is a lot of success. People are very successful, as we call success in the matrix that we live in, as I call it. But what is success is a good question to ask, and the program is about helping you to define what is your success. What do you want your life to look like? Most of us live our lives following the conditioning that we receive by society, parents, friends, partners, and so on. The program invites you to create a space from all that external noise and define for yourself, discover for yourself what is your truth in all that noise, so that you can follow that. So if you want to be a photographer and that's what bubbles up, great. It might be that, it might be around relationship. It might be about anything. So yeah.
Fantastic. I mean, I think the natural conclusion then is like, so let's say someone does want to be a photographer, right? I mean, or they want to follow their passion specifically, so maybe not in photography specifically. What would you suggest from your experience that they, what are the fundamental kind of like aspects they need to have down, or what advice would you give to them to really get started in the concept of entrepreneurship and actually, yes, I'm going to do this myself?
I love these questions. It's because if you want to be a photographer, there is a step before going to entrepreneurship, and that's to become a photographer. Just take a lot of photos and get better with that, and see that you actually like it. It's two very different things. To know the craft of what we're doing, photography, in my case, back in the days, it was drumming. Now it's the work that I do around, call it coaching, the word that I don't really like, but but it's about really diving deep into that and understanding what that means and how that looks like. And that's where I put the big red light. What does it mean to you, and how does it look like to you? Because, you know, there are many photographers out there. Why you know, to really define that and to make that visible as much as possible, especially if you're a photographer. Getting into the business is a completely different thing. That for me was bloody challenge, man, because I'm not coming to business from a curiosity about business and passion about business. None of that exists in me. It's funny one, because, you know, I wanted to be a drummer from the age of 4. It was like the biggest, wettest dream I had ever. And everybody around me when I was a teenager, and I really wanted to pursue that, everybody told me, oh, you should get a serious job and all these kind of things. And I listened, but it was so obvious for me that I want to pursue this. And it just happened. Did I make a business out of my drumming? Was I an entrepreneur as a drummer? No, I was an artist, lucky enough to be in the right place in the right time, which led me to have a very successful career as a drummer, which was absolutely amazing. But then when I wanted to do the transition, because drumming, I kind of felt like I lost the mojo there, you know, when I was in my mid-30s and I became a father, and it was like, I don't really want to continue with this crazy touring. And it was like, it was amazing, but it's kind of like the flame kind of went down there. So then I had to think about the new direction. And there was a lot of thinking there, much more about also the money element. So I understood that, okay, I'm probably not very employable. I'm probably not really interested to be employed. What is it I truly like doing? And that for me was kind of, you know, the same you talk about photography. If it's someone that finds the passion in photography, for me, the passion was about helping people find their path. Because that's actually what I did in my career as a drummer. We had really big projects. And in those projects, it's the transformation that happened to people from point zero, that they didn't know what was going on, to the point in the end that they performed in front of thousands of people. The performance was never really my thing in the end. I love the process of transforming people's way of thinking and stuff. And a lot of people I'm talking about both artists that performed with us, but also a lot of community projects that we've done in different cultures and different places. So I wanted to pursue that, but I understood that I need to learn about business. I need to understand how to make that work financially. And that was like, oh my goodness, man. So I read about gazillion books about marketing, triple gazillions books about the whole business structure. And it's about understanding that if you want to be a photographer, it doesn't mean that you need to be an entrepreneur. And really understand well if you really want to dive into this place of making it into a business, because you'll have to deal with everything but photography for a long time. And not everybody's built for that. So be honest with yourself. And if you feel that it is, then you have to educate yourself. One of the books that I strongly recommend is the E-Myth Revised, because he talks there about the 3 types of characters that you need to have. It talks about the entrepreneur, which is the one that always thinks forward and have all the vision and wants to jump and do another project and another. If we talk about photography, for example, I can go and photo shoot in Africa, I can go and photo shoot in Antarctica and ta-ta-ta. That's the entrepreneur, always living in the future, wants to rush around and create new things. So that's one character that we need to have if we run the business. The other type, he talks about the technician. That's the dude that loves to be in the present moment, just do the work. It's the guy that likes to go and be in the photography session to check that the light is in the right angle, and all these things. And he doesn't want anything with the future. He just wants to be, I want to be right now to take the best image. You know, it's the one that can stand in Africa for like 7 hours to get the picture of the bird flying exactly in the right moment. That's he's all about the moment. And that's another character that we need to have. And then the third one is the manager. It's the one that kind of lives in the past. Like, we need to capture everything that is happening. All the invoices need to be in place. We need to make sure that all the communication is clear. And we need to be good with all 3 of them. And not all of us are good in 3 of them. I'm fucking shit in some of those. But it's something that we need to, if we want to go into a business, I need to either really deepen my understanding of these things. I have to anyway. But then there comes the question of, where do I delegate and hire, and how as well? or where do I just step up my game? And it's a challenge, as you know.
I I think it's a really interesting point, and I think it's a really important point because a lot of people when they start out, they're like, I love what I do. They're in that practitioner moment. I want to create videos. I want to do backflips. I want to do photography. I want to do whatever it is that you want to do. But the reality of the fact is that you actually, unfortunately, need to be better at the managerial or the entrepreneurship parts, arguably, if you're going to make it a business. There's nothing wrong with not being good at that if you don't need it to be a business. But if you need it to build your income to a point where you can actually live off it, then you need to think about the business before, in my opinion. Right? You can be the best photographer in the world, but if you don't know how to sell it, it doesn't matter. And that's where I think, a lot of business owners can get kind of unstuck sometimes in the respect to like how because it feels like a step backwards for them, because they're like, oh, I'm really good at photography, or I'm really into my craft, and etc. And the question I always ask people when they ask me is like, oh, I want to do this. I'm like, okay, are you sure you want to do that as a job? Because from what I found, and I'll throw it back to you in a moment, but what I found is it has changed my relationship to what I do, right? Not in a bad way, I don't think, but I always say to a lot of people, it can change it, especially if it's your love. My background is in game development. I really ask myself, do I actually want to create video games for a living? And the reason why, I saw what was happening in the industry, and that arguably they were being abused for the love that they had for the career and the job, that I was like, no, I don't want that, because it's going to ruin my entire relationship with something that I've loved for a very, very long time, from a very young age. I mean, for me, that was why I stepped away, right? And I'm seeing the same thing in traditional filmmaking, and that's why I try not to be a traditional filmmaker, so to speak, because there is a huge amount of effort and energy and time that goes into it, and a lot of respect for those who do it, but it is a little bit on the exploitive line in some cases, right? So, I mean, I think what kind of made, I know you sort of talked about it because it was a lot of like you help people understand their path and etc. But what specifically made you choose to go into, I'm going to use the term, less generic styles of coaching? I know you don't like the word coaching, but that's kind of the best way to describe it, than in what you do. Because from what I know of the program, and I'm sure we'll get into the program as well, because it's a traditional model, but also not a traditional model. Because a lot of coaches, their model is, you see me for a certain amount of weeks, we have a business objective, or we have an objective, and I'm going to help you get to that objective, or I'm going to help you increase your revenue, or I'm going to help you have your business be more efficient, or etc. I mean, and that's, from my understanding, that's not solely what you do. That might be that might be a benefit, right? That might be, oh yeah, congratulate, hooray, great, fantastic, that's what happened. But for those who don't know, but also, why do you not do, I guess the reason why you didn't do that specifically was because that wasn't something that you were overly passionate about. But then what is the point then? Because I think that's the question that a lot of people are going to have. It's like, okay, you have this program, but what, what's the tangible?
Yeah. So again, very good question. And your questions, I can tackle them from many different places, but let me try to do my best to describe my response. So before I talk what the program is, it's important to, again, check in with the problem that we have. And the problem that I found, and I speak for myself because basically I created this program for myself. I find myself as a man who is considered to be successful, whatever that means, but but I'm a married man, I have kids, I really have a family that I love, I live in a place that I love, I've been a touring drummer, blah, 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 all this kind of stuff. But a lot of times it's ego bullshit. And a lot of times I feel lost and I feel doubtful about what the fuck am I doing with my life? Like, where is this going? I have a lot of meaning questions. What is this life about? I was depressed for many, many years as a result of these things. And I find myself a lot of times not really knowing who do I talk to about it? What's going on? Now, the obvious thing for me for many years was therapy. So I've done a lot of different forms of some therapy, some embodiment practices, a lot of different things. And I learned how to step out of depression once and for all 11 years ago. And I learned how to let go of massive, crazy body pains that I carried for many, many years. You know, I had my neck and back got stuck for like 2-3 days from when I was a teenager to my mid-20s. It was severe pain. I couldn't go out of bed. And so, and I'm not alone there. Maybe my experience is like that, but I know for a fact, because I have a lot of conversations, there are so many men who feel that way. It's like everything's supposed to be okay, but I'm feeling like a loser. I feel like I don't have the confidence to change my life. There is much more out there that I know that I can reach. I have much more potential. I want to give much more, but it's like everything's stuck. So the program gives an answer for these kind of men. You know, there, as you said, there's a lot of different types of coaching where the focus is on the, let's put a goal and what do you want to achieve and la, 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 la. I haven't seen anybody, you know, achieving these things and then like, so you celebrate for an hour, for a day, for a week, if you go extravaganza, and then what? Then you get stuck again with like, oh shit, what's life about? So all these goal-focused programs, you know, a lot of people speak about this. You know, you don't listen to music to reach the end of the piece of the music. So why the fuck do we live our lives like this, to get to the end of a goal? And so the length of the program, the intensity of the program was created after a lot of conversations, not with myself only, but also with the clients that have gone through the program. What would serve you best? And the guys said, like the guys that have been on the program for many years now, they said the period of time of 10 months to go into this container when I'm with other men, where I can share these things openly and develop. It's not about the therapy, like let's be miserable and open and emotional, like, man, this is why I call the program, and then what? Because there are circles like this for men, that it's all about the vulnerability and sharing, and my business is struggling, or I have difficulties with my wife, but it gets stuck there. And I don't want to get stuck there. So I'm contradicting myself now. I will tell you now, and then what? So I do want you to set a goal. So in the 10 months of the program, what do you want to create? What do you want to be your end goal? And everybody will set it in a different way. I've shared it in many interviews. So I have a guy that for him, it was about creating a 7-figure business in that period. I had a guy who, for him, it was about creating a business that can be 6 weeks without him present, so he can sail the Atlantic with his sailing boat. And I had a guy in Switzerland who was, I want to move out of the countryside, and by the end of the 10 months, I want to show you my first carrot juice from carrots that I grew in my own garden. The goal can be literally anything that you want, and we put a lot of focus about what's that goal. And the moment that you know what your goal is, we in a way kind of don't care about it anymore, because what we care about, like, who are you and who are you not, in order to get there. So who are you right now, and who do you need to be in order to get to that place? Now, I found no place in my life where I can be with guys that I truly trust, where all the facade, all the bullshit, all the muscles that I have, all the shit together is being completely removed. And you're there in a very, very open and honest place. We share everything. And guys often say that as much as they have really good friends and good family, they share much more in the group. And as an outcome, a lot of those heavy lifting things that we carry constantly are being removed, because you're not alone and you have this constant container. So it's not like a weekend that, you know, I will transform your life, la, 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 and you feel like you can conquer the world and Mars at the same time. After day 2, 3, 5, 7, you're back in your old habits. The idea is this consistent space where you can constantly be yourself and learn more about who you are, can really help you. And as a result, you know, I've seen guys transforming their business, guys that had 5 guys in their team, in their business, that they were constantly struggle with, now have a team of 12. When the guy shares with me the Zoom photos of everybody smiling and telling me how when his brother got married, he was able to leave the business for 3 days and the business just worked without him completely involved. And he was like, fuck, this is happening. Or another guy who, you know, or the carrot juice, you know, the guy showed us the carrot juice and the radishes and everything. So again, people really achieve their things. People really transform the intimate relationship. I almost got divorced in 2015. And through this work, I learned how to have a really beautiful relationship with my wife. It's a constant learning and development, and there are constantly hard moments. But this is what the program is about, because it works. And again, I know it for myself, because if I don't have this space, and I'm doing this space as a facilitator, but still I'm having my own spaces as well, I can easily get stuck in the stuckness with me doing what I like to call mind masturbation, doing wonky with my mind, and it goes nowhere, all these thoughts. But the moment I have this environment, which is the tight environment, not too big, not too small, where I can share who I am, share my struggles, share my successes, get the support, get the encouragement, get the kick in the butt from guys that I totally trust, and it's constant and it's regular, and we go deep and we explore things that I haven't explored anywhere. Like, what is the impact of the relationship of with my parents about my business? Where do you really dive really deep into that? Because we all function, we can be in our 30s, 40s, 50s, but we still function a lot about what our parents expected from us. And how can you unleash yourself from that in order to know who you truly are? We get tools of embodiment, like how to, so many guys suffer from stress, anxiety, so many things. You learn how to release those things through the body, because a lot of these coaching programs, it's all head-based. You're getting information and content and and it's stuck in the head. But it's time to leave the head a little bit, because we receive the body and in this transformation of us being human here. So learning how to use the connection between body, mind, and spirit, dare I say, even in business, is a very powerful tool. So to summarize this, I created this program in the way it is because I know that the consistent container in a very, very honest and place, this consistency of practice constantly with the same guys works. The length of it, guys told me when we did 3 months, 6 months, guys told me it's too short. And when I was in cycles also, there was no progress, it was just continuous. People say, oof, it's kind of, you lose track. And it's nice to have the 10 months and then you have 2 months off. Most of the guys come back. And it's nice to be in a space as well where you are in an environment with other guys that's a key point. It's guys that you feel that you can really help and transform, and you can share your wisdom and they will take it and they will crave it. But at the same time, you get the same from them. Because a lot of times, I don't know about you, I found myself a lot of times that it's kind of, I'm in a leading point and everybody's kind of looking at me and like, I need to pull everybody up. And it's like, okay, that's one type of relationship. And there are other scenarios where I go and I feel kind of like, oh, I'm the underdog here. And I'm fine like, oh, can I even speak? And it's nice to be, I like to call it king among kings. So you are in an environment where you trust everybody that they're playing on a high level. They want to create something meaningful for them from this life, not just for themselves, but for others. And to be in a consistent environment with this level of intensity, with the most important ingredient, real honesty, it's just so fucking beautiful and powerful. So that's why I created this. Very long answer to your question, my friend.
I think it's really important though, because I think there's a lot that you talked about there that's not a lot that people talk about. About having a space where people can be honest, and I think what reality will happen is they'll be honest with themselves, right? I think that's the goal, because I think a lot of people are not honest with themselves because they're concerned about judgment. They're concerned about what do this person think, what does my parents think, what is blah 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 blah, and that's why they're not honest with themselves. It's got nothing to do with the fact whether they could or couldn't do it, and as we talked about a little bit earlier, it's about understanding that you need to get better no matter how perceivably successful you are, right? Like for me, I'm always like, right, I'm at this stage, fantastic, but what about the next stage? What about where I want to go? Where am I going to go next? What do I need to do to level myself up, so to speak? And I think it's really important. I mean, what made you sort of, because I know it's only guy specifically, right? Like why? Because that's quite a decision, right? Like it's quite a big thing. Like no offense, ladies, but this isn't for you, right? Like from a marketing standpoint.
Actually, not true, my friend. It's very much for them, and that's the beauty of it. That the wives and girlfriends of the guys that are in the program, I get messages from them saying like, "Listen, I have no idea what you guys are doing in this group, but just keep doing it. Thank you, because he's so much more present with me. He's so much more present with the kids and so on. So it's definitely for the women, but women can participate." I just want to go back 1 second to something that you said about not being honest with myself. It's the understanding also of the huge impact that has as a ripple effect. or the ripple effect, when I start to be more honest with myself, the ripple effect of that, because I have been there. I almost got married, for example, with a woman that I truly knew it wasn't right, and my body screamed at me from the inside, and I couldn't sleep. I got really confused. Back then, I didn't have the awareness to understand what was going on for me, but my body was screaming to me, "Don't do that." Basically, now I can see it. I couldn't see it back then, and it didn't happen. And this is really important because I see so many relationships falling apart and so many conflicts in the workplace with people, and it happens because people just walk with masks on, and it's our decision as men, and this will kind of link to your question about why men. It's our decision, because also it's another thing that I ask in talks that I give, in workshops that I do. I ask guys to honestly say who considers, who from all of you here, who feels that they had a good, positive role model as men in your life? And most of the guys, it's like 20-30% that will say that they had a positive role model. As a father, we can extend it to other options. A lot of men grow up without the father figure in the house. It has a huge impact. There are statistics of the impact of that, of like, people in prison, and so on. So it's our decision. It's my decision. And this is what I create. It's my decision. Do I want to continue this chain? Or I say it ends here, and I'm going to create something better for our next generation, for myself. And that's the invitation for men who and I'm not saying that all our fathers are horrible. I'm very, very grateful for so many things. It's not about that, but we can do better. And why not to do better? So, and that's why the invitation is, I link it very beautifully to your next question. It's like, why men? Because we don't have a space like this, and it's not natural for us to do this. I'm still debating whether they're not natural for us. Is it really biological because we have a penis, or is it because we're conditioned from a young age to hold our shit together, to be the man, to be the, to not show emotions? I don't have a clear answer, but what I do know from seeing so many men in this process, men are craving to let the guard off and to allow themselves to just fucking discover who they truly are, so that they can have more freedom, first of all, inside. And that, as I said, has a ripple effect. So it's for men, because men, amongst men only, will open up about the subject that we're talking about in a very different way than if a woman will be in the space. And I ask guys a lot of times just to check in, guys, what do you think about it? And the guy said, no, it's really important. Now, it's as I said in the beginning, it's really important to understand that it's not about for men because men are better. No, it's just there is no space like this for men. I know that if I need to talk about sexuality, intimacy, and things like this, and there will be a woman in the space, I will talk about it differently. And the whole macho bullshit starts to pop up and stuff. But when men are only with men, and we start to be more honest, then again, all these heavy stuff that we carry constantly just drops off. Another thing why it's for men, because I know a lot of men, and I include myself, that being with other men only is something that triggers, because of past experience, because of fear, because of judgment, because of ego. And this is why it's such a rare thing. And this is why men still don't trust this circle. But once you find yourself in that space where you don't need to push and you don't need to prove, and you can really deeply connect, man, it's an incredible feeling. And a lot of things change as a result of that. And also it's for men, because I think that, as I said, we can either get stuck in ourselves, or the other solution that I kind of can think of is going to therapy. And for a lot of men, going to therapy is probably the worst thing. Like, basically, you need to sit down and talk about how you feel. Let's make it easy. It's a very feminine structure, and it's almost 90% of the therapy positions, work positions, are held by women. So it's like we're inviting men to open up in a very feminine environment where a lot of stuff actually people have around relationship. So that doesn't work. So as a man, as a penis owner, as I like to call it, I know, other gateways, other points of access that can be more digestible as a starting point before we go and talk about things and open up. There are other things, and we do a lot of physical activities and a lot of different things that make it easier for guys.
Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, that's interesting because, I mean, as I say, I mean, that was the initial question for me was like, okay, well, why is it guys? Because, you know, but it's important, right? And it's important to understand that, and it's important to establish that. And I think that a lot of what you're talking about there was, you know, it's a lot about being comfortable within yourself. And I think guys, specifically talking as a guy, for a lot of our lives, we always look to others to be like, hey, am I cool, so to speak? Hey, am I the popular one? Am I doing okay perceivably in that, whether that's regarding in sport, for example, where you could be, you know, am I running fast enough, or can I tackle the ball enough, or in work, am I earning enough money, or am I with that specific, you know, person of my dreams, so to speak? But from a really, really like surface level thing, it's not, is that person, as in like your partner, someone who you can truly connect with and really have a good relationship with. It's actually from a surface level, do they look really hot or not? Right? That's the question. I think a lot of, especially from like, you know, college and teenage years, really kind of brings out. And I think there's a lot of knock-on effects to that. Talking about knock-on effects for when you're older, because, you know, for me, I'm very fortunate that I was able to sort of choose a lot of my own decisions. I thank this to my parents and my upbringing and etc. But my main parent in Pacific, I'll put it that way. And you know, for me, I was given the wonderful opportunity to be able to actually choose my path and be like, I want to try and go full time. I know how risky it is, but I believe that I can do it, and I believe that this is what I can do. And in a household where a judgment or etc., where it'd be like, oh, that's a risky decision, you can't do that, I would be a lot more jaded, or a lot more, because that's quite a big decision, right? Like going full time and risking quote unquote everything to build a business or build something more meaningful is scary when you first make the step, right? Like, I mean, I'm sure we'll get into when you made the transition as well, but for me anyway, it was because it was like, yes, technically I wasn't losing anything, because I was going from a a normal, quote unquote normal job where I hadn't climbed a career ladder to then into my own thing, right? So the worst case scenario, 6 months pass, I go back to get my own job again, right? Like, it's the worst that can happen. I'm not going to be not able to eat. I'm not going to have not a roof over my head, etc. But, for me, what I wanted was still to give it a go, because then I'm not asking myself, what if I had done? Right? And I think one of the main hurdles that people do start is maybe they think, oh, I've got these commitments. And yeah, of course, when you have more commitments, you need to be more careful and you need to be more strategized in how you go about it. That should never, in my opinion, stop you from making the decision, because if you're very unhappy, or you're very concerned, or work's draining you, or your job's draining you, then you need to ask yourself, what's as you say, what are the ripples into the rest of your life, right? What are the ripples for your friends? What are the ripples for your family? What are the ripples for, the main reason for me, I didn't have my father growing up a lot of the time. A lot of people who know me know this. So my mum is my rock, is really, really strong for me. And the reason why I went full time, one of the main reasons, was very simply, I want to be able to control and have as much time with her as possible, and I couldn't do that with a scheduled job, right? If it was, you have to work 9 to 5, right? Yes, I could work around it, I could see what weekends, yada, 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 but I wouldn't have the full level of control that I would have if I ran my own company and I worked for myself. Because when you work for yourself, in theory, you can choose when you're going to work and when you're not, right? And you can turn that switch on and off, right? Now, sometimes that's a mixed blessing, because arguably you work more when you work for yourself than you would do ever at a job, but it means different. It feels and it is different when it's something you're building for yourself, because you have more emotional connection to it, or you understand it's more meaningful to you specifically, and it feels like a more fulfillment, from what I found anyway. It gives you a lot more fulfillment, and it gives you a lot more understanding, and it's in the position where you're able to work harder because you understand what you're building, and you're not just begrudgingly building something for someone else. Because sometimes the issue can come when you're an employee is that you are building something for someone else. So the harder you work, the bigger their business gets. and that can sometimes put in a level of resentment. I mean, how did you sort of transition from being a drummer? Like, we've talked a little bit about that transition, but like, was that a scary jump? I mean, I suppose not necessarily as like a drummer, because it's very similar in the respect to, I guess it's hit or miss. I don't know, because I've never been a drummer, so
it's scary all the time. I think, and the scary part doesn't disappear. It's my relationship to that fear is different, I think. But I think you said words that I think are the main core of what this is about for me. You spoke about meaning, you spoke about purpose, and I think that's where we need to which connects to, again, like, who are you, to really know who you truly are, because that will give you the answer that gave me my answer to what path am I taking here. And my meaning and purpose is what it is. It was for me the drumming, and as soon as it evaporated there, and not that I don't love drumming anymore, and if I will be offered some stuff, I would probably consider, depends on what. I don't want to tour anymore, but the creative part, yeah. But my meaning now is in a very different place, and as long as I'm connected to the meaning, call it Simon Sinek, the why, whatever, to know why am I waking up, what ticks my boxes. If I'm connected to that, and I might choose to be employed, I might choose to be, it doesn't really matter, because the path for that can be very different. Some guys are not built to be entrepreneurs, and it's not like a crime. It's great, so I wish I had the mind of an employee. Much more simple. My life would be like that. There is we live in a world that everybody's trying to put right and wrong from everything. There is no right and wrong. And I'll contradict myself again. There is right and wrong. The only right and wrong that I can see is being wrong is to choose to live life by other people's expectation. So everything that you described before about what we're pursuing, it's all external bullshit. It has nothing to do with me. All these expectations to be the best, the fastest, okay. Who taught me in my life to really stop for a second and ask, what do I want in all that? And the minute we can do this, and this is, about a little bit the crop method that I created, it's all about that. It's like, find who you truly are, because the minute that you connect with that, then your answer is about, do I want to be a business owner? Do I want to be an employee? What kind of life do I want? All these answers come. You don't need to find them. But in a world that constantly takes us out of who we truly are, you look at the advertisement, you look at everything, makes you feel that you're not good enough, that you need more, that your perfect holiday needs to look like, you see the perfect family on the perfect beach, on the perfect whatever. And then when you go to the places, sometimes you're pissed off with your wife and you want to kill your kids and whatever. It's all, so life is different to these advertisements. So it's better to look in. And when we look in, the answers will come. And we need to practice that on a regular basis. But what do we do on a regular basis? We wake up, we look at our phone, we go to work, we check that, we go to the pub, we get drunk, we never really go inside. And that's, I think, something that is very, very important. And the answers for all the tangible thing, business, no business, how to do the business, can come from there.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think it's really important to check in with that. And, the only point I was going to add to that is, a lot of people who follow me and what I do, and I have a lot of self-talk belief and self-motivation, and self-talk for me is very, internal talk is very important. And the thing is that people don't appreciate and don't understand is when I say that, it's not to bring anyone else down. It's not to like have a knock-on effect to them. That's not the goal. The goal is always, for me anyway, for me to push myself to be better than I was yesterday, because that's the goal. That's the objective. That's what I'm trying to aim for me personally. And that's for me, not for the perceived level of success that comes with that, or that then I can buy whatever it is or whatever. This is what I feel I'm good at. These were the levels I had. These were the limits I had at yesterday, or a year ago, a week ago, or whatever. And now I'm not. Those limits aren't there, because I've pushed through them, I've worked through them, I know what I'm able to do in that respect. I mean, that's important for me. For me personally, that growth, that development, the constant process development. And, it was something that I really related to earlier when you said, it's not about where you're going, it's about the journey there. Because it's important to understand that you need to, especially if you're going to be whether you're going to be anything, actually, I think, whether it's going to be an employee or an entrepreneur, but especially as an entrepreneur, because I can talk as one, or someone who works for themselves, you have to love the process. You have to. Because if you don't, that you're not going to be able to do it the amount of time you're going to have to do it for. To be completely honest with you, you're not going to be able to do that, and it's going to be very difficult for you. But I didn't like it at the start. I didn't love the journey, so to speak, at the start. But I kept going, and I kept going until I did. And that wasn't me forcing myself to move forward of like, resentment. I need to push myself through all this pain because from like a, I need to do that perspective. No, it was more about I need to prove this to myself that I can do it. Right. Every day after me going full time was okay. Yes, I can actually do this. Right. This is not like a tangible thing in my head going, yes, I can run a business full time. No, I do run a business full time. It's not I can, it's I do, because I do it every day. Right, so it's a tangible thing I do, and there might be a day where I wake up and go, well, actually, this isn't my thing anymore. I don't want to do this anymore, and then I need to ask myself, well, what is that thing? I mean, that's kind of everything I want to discuss today. I mean, I really appreciate the time, as I say, and what I'd like to do at the end is just sort of give you an opportunity to ask me something or throw in a topic for us to discuss for a couple of minutes. So, is there anything? There doesn't have to be. Everyone thinks that's a trick question when I ask them. It's not.
No, there's just one thing that you said, I want to be better every day. I want to be better. And for me, when I thought about it, it's like, I think for me, I would choose the word truer. I don't know if there is a word like this, but fuck it, I'll invent it. Because for a lot of guys, again, because of education and stuff like this, it was about, that there is the extreme of guys that became very aggressive and macho and and there is the other guys who became very soft and very kind, and for them to be good became kind of the model. And I'm considering myself many years to be like that. And I think to be better can be considered to be again in this good. And for some of us, it's better to develop a little bit what the energy of the warrior, to cut through the stuff. And so it's about finding your truth of whatever that is, and it's very flexible in every moment. So at some point I will have to be softer and kinder. At some point I will have to kick ass and just cut through the bullshit. I just thought that I had
It's important to understand when is what we would call quote unquote, or I would call quote unquote go time, where and not. Right, because it's important for you. It's important for you having balance in respect to, what you're looking after your body as well, like sleep, so on. Because a lot of people say to me, "You work too much, you push yourself too much." I'm like, well, yes, in regard, but the thing is, you're looking at it from your perspective with your lenses on or your limits on, right? So it's not actually I'm necessarily pushing myself too hard. I'm always questioning that line. I'm always questioning where I am. I'm always questioning, am I doing that? But for me, like, burnout is different, and we can get into burnout a bit, but I don't think we need to necessarily. It's up to you. But I think the main thing is like understanding if you're not sacrificing food, you're not sacrificing sleep, then you won't burn out, in my opinion, right? I don't think you will, especially if you're doing stuff that gives you a lot more fulfillment with what you're doing, because it gives you more meaning and purpose, which means that in turn has a knock-on effect to the amount of energy you have around it.
So you asked me to ask you a question. So the question that I like to usually ask people who do the kind of work that we do, what's your biggest challenge at the moment?
That's a very good question. I mean, I could use the simple answer of, we don't have enough work. We never have enough work, perceivably, right? There's always another objective that we're trying to hit. So, but that's quite an easy get out clause, right? So, I mean, I think the challenge for me is pacing myself mostly with what I'm doing, how much time I'm expecting things to take, and actually just being patient with myself. I think is the main thing I need to personally. I'm working on at the moment and trying to get better at, is because I find sometimes no matter how long I know that it's going to take for me to get to where I want to go, and I'm actually ahead of schedule, so to speak. If you look back a year from where I was a year ago, and etc., I understand all of that. But the problem is, I still want it faster than it is. Right? It's this constant need of like, I know I can be doing more. It's this driving factor, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing, because for me, it's a driving factor of always moving forward and always doing the best I can every day. But it is also something that you need to learn to step back from a little bit and give yourself that time, to reflect and ask yourself what's important and understand, what the core importance is to you, and then how do you prioritize that time. I saw something yesterday that was like, no one's too busy for you, you're just not high enough on their priority list. And I'll leave it, and I'll leave that thought with the audience and with you. So where can people find you if they're interested in sort of hearing more about the program, seeing more about what you do, or just having a chat about what you do?
The easiest place is my website, which is www.yaronengler. It's YARON for November, ENGLER.com. There is all the pages there about the crop method, about the program. You can contact me also on LinkedIn, and I don't know if you're planning to put any links down here. Wherever down here is, we will put it there as well.
Fantastic. Thank you ever so much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, ladies and gents. I hope you did enjoy this episode and took some value from this conversation. I'll be back next week with a brand new episode of the podcast. And if you want to come on, or you would know someone who does want to come on the podcast, feel free to let me know through Instagram or etc. places as well. And I'm sure we can have that conversation to see if you're a right fit or not, so to speak. But thanks so much for coming back. Once again, I'll see you very, very soon.